Okay, so very good afternoon, everybody. And today we are going to discuss two themes from Gun Island, Amitav Ghosh's novel. And first, we will see the theme of climate change, as we have quite occasionally discussed that Amitav Ghosh is very consciously aware about climate change, and he is in a way deliberately writing about climate change in his works for quite a long time. But when we discuss this, we'll refer to the work that is the Great Derangement. Yesterday also we referred to this work, and few things we will see today also. Gun Island is coming after this book. Gun Island is released after this, so it again is very important to see that what was he trying to say here, and how many critics say that, many reviewers rather, they have said that Gun Island is an answer to questions raised in this book. The questions which he is raising here, like what is role of a novel or a novelist so far as climate change is concerned, a direct question and a complaint that normally novelist or in that way literature is silent about something that is happening around us, something that is quite terrible and threatening human lives on the earth, and people are not aware about it. So, and literature is silent about that. And so now, obviously, when you raise a question, you have to give an answer. That if you want to write a work of art, which is around what you are trying to say, that is about climate change, then what kind of work can be written? How can you write a work of art which is prominently displaying the theme of climate change? Gun Island is a direct answer to that. Gun Island is a direct answer to that question. So here comes there. So what is he doing? He tells that we have to go to past. We have to go to past, and with the help of past, we have to study present and think of future. How can we go in past? The best way is to read the myth. Let us go to our myths and try to understand the myths, and were there any signs, symbols in a rather uncanny, unreasonable, mystical, magical way, anything was lying there which we can use to understand our time and can predict for the future or not. So that is how he uses the myth of Mansa Devi and Gun Merchant, which is quite popular among the localities of Sundarbans. And he narrates a story with characters which are not the believers, like uneducated lot, those who are the believers in goddesses and those kind of folk, not that, but he makes use of academicians, intellectuals, and also those who are coming from the Western world, the enlightened world, in the term, if you want to say enlightened, then he is using the enlightened people, the Western people, which we think that they are more rational, they are more having a scientific temperament, and the world, whenever they want to give example back home in the African communities or Indian communities, people say, see what the Americans are doing, see what the Europeans are doing, we have to think like that. That is what as a stereotypes people keep on using. So Amitav Ghosh is using those figures to talk about that. So in a way, it's a very smart move. Very smartly, Amitav Ghosh is moving around. If you want to tell a story about past, and if you bring only those uneducated people who are believers into shrines and pirs, and they keep on visiting that as a part of a blind faith, you can't tell convincingly that story to the urban audience or to the westernized audience in that way. So he brings those characters here. And so far as the use of characters is concerned, within this dynamics of narration, he has made an Indians are there, but they are Indo-American, we can say. The Bangla American characters are there. Two characters, Bangla American, Piali Roy and Dinanath Datta. And one important character is completely European, that is coming from Venice, Italy. Chinta is coming from that character only. And he has made the Indians more rational and the Europeans rather irrational. That is how the character is. Otherwise, If you make Pia a believer like Chinta, then again, perhaps we may go back into those categorization. That Indians, even if they study in America or do research, they are believers of blind faith only. So again, you may not work out things in a better way. So you make Chinta a believer in that narrative. So these are the strategies which can be effectively used as a post-colonial writer also, and somebody who wants to talk about climate change in our time. So how is it that going on? What is he telling in this book? If we want to say that, so what we will do here is that we will have two way of approaching uh, this answer, thematic discussion on climate change. One, we will go to this book, The Great Derangement, and try to see the highlights which we can see there, and how those ideas we are finding here, so that we will see. So very briefly, a very brief highlight of this text, and then we will see how far Gun Merchant can give us enough illustrations to see this. Second strategy that we want to do here is to use a kind of a corpus. A corpus, or rather than using a word corpus, we can say a list of words. Corpus may be perhaps a much heavy word for a list of words, but let us try to think if we have a corpus wherein the list of words which are speaking about climate change, then that can also be an interesting idea. As a digital humanities project, we can think of making a corpus of the terms which are related to climate change, and then we can try to find and see that how these words are recurrently coming in the narration. Not only in Gun Island, we can take 10 novels, 100 novels, 200 novels, and we can work out if we have this corpus. So that in a way opens a path towards digital humanities, or using digital humanities as a critical tool to study climate change. But here we will try to see that how we can move in that direction, and we will try to list down some of the words, list down, and we will ask you to search these words in the e-copy of the novel, and try to see what do you find. Are these words there in the novel? And if they are there, what are these words telling us? How can we talk about climate change with the help of that activity? So we'll try to deploy a tool of digital humanities to work on e-text with the help of list of words which are pertaining to climate change, and we'll try to see that what we get as a result also. But first of all, what is in Great Derangement? First, let us see what is in this non-fictional work, Great Derangement here. Okay, so let us have a look at the next slide here. Let me also see whether the things are recorded properly. Okay, yeah, I think it is getting recorded. Yeah. Okay, so The Great Derangement, the book as we're referring to, we can find this, it is in three parts. The book is in three parts. Part one is titled as stories, second as history, and part three as politics. This is how these three parts are visible. First part, stories, explore why the modern novel, that is contemporary novel, not modern means 20th century, contemporary novel struggles as an art form to describe and grapple with the concept of climate change. The concept of climate change. To understand this shortcoming, Ghosh highlights the role of the uncanny. The role of the uncanny. So, well, first thing, that modern novel, as we discussed yesterday also, they have to deal with reality so that the novel can be considered as the novel, the Western canon of the novel. You have to surpass the Western canon of the novel, and you have to go into the definitions which are coming from Latin America, from India, from China, wherein those novels do not talk only about reality or social reality. They may talk about something that is magical or mystical also. So uncanny says that what is this role of uncanny, which is unbelievable. this 100 years of solitude obviously is talking about this, what we call it as magic realism. But we have studied one novel, that is Midnight's Children. And in that we know what is this uncanny kind of a thing, like at the stroke of midnight, there are children born. That is, the midnight is 14th August 1947. And those who are born at the stroke of midnight, they have some mystical power. The one who is born exactly at 12 o'clock has more power than those who are born afterwards. So the more later you are born, you have a lesser power. Now this is completely mystical, magical, uncanny, unbelievable. In any way, this can never be a reality. In any way, serpents can be a reality anywhere in the world. You go anywhere, you find serpents. But this, that at midnight, if you are born, you have more power, then the power reduces. And what is that power? Power is to have a talk, virtual talk with everybody. You can convene the meeting and everybody can come and you can do meeting, and then you can dissolve the meetings also. That is the very uncanny thing which that novel deals. But well, we know that is a post-colonial aspect and magical, and you are writing back to the European writers who want to see realism in one way, but you want to say that, well, this is our reality and we want to write about it. And Midnight Children's success, not only among the people, that is mass, or even in the award galleries, opens up a very dynamic chapter of looking at this. Amitav Ghosh again goes to those uncanny kind of a thing. Uncanny, if you want to see what is the meaning of uncanny, then we find that uncanny is the psychological experience of something as not simply mysterious, but creepy, often in a strangely familiar way. Something that is psychological, but not only psychological, but something that is quite creepy, a little bit. It seems like it is a strange but a non-behavior, something that seems to be very strange but a non-behavior. It may describe incidents where a familiar thing or event is encountered in an unsettling, eerie, or a taboo context. For example, if you want to deal about snakes and serpents, and you want to deal in such a way that you want to say that, well, the serpents are controlled by some devi. Now it is a very, very kind of an unsettling dynamics that you are talking about. And you write, or you say that, well, somebody is experiencing the presence of the dead people. Somebody is experiencing the presence of a dead people. Then how eerie it is. It is like, in a modern sense, a taboo to speak about it. In today's context, to make a story about this also is going against the literary conventions of cause and effect and other kinds of things. Also, so this all things like uncanny things that is trying to say. So now we can understand that if in this novel we have a character, Chinta, who is living in Venice and whose daughter has died in an accident, but she feels that Lucia, the daughter, is constantly with her. She is talking also and the voice is heard. Even before we die, the voice was heard. Or later on, even Giza, that is the cousin's daughter, Giza, also feels that there was somebody who was talking, and was it Lucia or not? And Chinta says that Lucia is with us on this boat. And when ultimately Chinta dies at the end of the novel, she tells that, well, I am with Lucia and now it is time for me to go with her. And then she dies at the end. So in a very uncanny way, Lucia is present in the novel. And people would be surprised to say that this is how the novel is written in today's time. This is how you write. So you are deliberately dealing with uncanny in the novel. Then there is this presence of gun merchant, also very curious. At one point, it is almost told that in this tornado, if somebody is coming to give you a right path, show you the right path, he is the Atma of gun merchant. Banduki Saudagar has come here. Though you are trying to rationalize it by telling that similarly looking Moroccan people may be living here. You are trying to rationalize, but you are not completely denying that fact in the narration. You are not completely denying that. Also, you are not resolving also that. In the novel, you have to resolve so many things. Like we were talking about Yen Martel, or One Night at the Call Center, Chetan Bhagat's novel, where there is a kind of a God element present there. But in both those narrative, the God element is dealt in a much different way. You rationalize, like you tell that, well, there was no tiger also. And God was like only the feeling of a character. It was like only the character felt. And that he felt because he had an experience of religion right from the childhood. So the entire narration is trying to rationalize the very idea about God, or Pi's experience of the God, and you never see anywhere a God as such. But here, or even in one at the call center, the lady says that, well, you can replace the voice of God with a military uncle. There is an old fellow there in the car, and allow your old fellow to tell a story, that part of a story, or let that old person speak. You will find lots of old literature where there is an old man symbolically coming as a figure of God, that you will find. So you won't have a problem there. But in this novel, no such attempts are made by Amitav Ghosh. Slightly in between, the character comes and makes an argument, but there is nothing to justify that in a stronger way. So that is, and thirdly, the very idea about Mansa Devi. Mansa Devi's presence, the way gun merchant was feeling that in the myth. Now here what you see is Ethiopian women. Suddenly an Ethiopian woman comes and she is helping Tipu in the blue boat, and then she is very visible from a farther distance in a blue boat. And there is nothing more about Ethiopian women, but we can say that possibly Ethiopian women may be there. But well, it signals towards the uncanny. So he is deliberately working on the role of uncanny when you want to tell a story of climate change. We can question why you want to tell it in this way, why you can't tell the story of climate change in any another way. In some of the interviews, Amitav Ghosh told that the kind of thing that is happening because of climate is completely unbelievable. It is very eerie. It seems that this is not real. You can't justify all those happenings the way it is happening. Even science would tell something that it is because of this or that, but still science cannot say 100% that it is this or it is that only. They also are in doubt. So the way the things are operating around us nowadays, it is very uncanny. The behavior of climate around us is very mysterious. And before we will make a proper sense of that, perhaps we all will die also. It is too early to tell this, that we all may die. But then some people say that when it will happen so fast that we won't have a time to think also. Perhaps it will happen much faster than what we are imagining. We are talking about Hollywood films about climate change and the massacre or havoc that happens because of ice age. Tomorrow Never Dies, for example. Not Tomorrow Never Dies, but what was that? One was 2012, 2012 film was there. And many such films which speaks about sudden ice age coming, and people are caught without understanding anything. Will that happen so quickly with us or not? How prepared are we? So that is why he wants to tell this in this particular way. Second point, history says, second part is history. Highlights the role of colonialism in the climate crisis. With examples ranging from Miami to Mumbai to New York, Ghosh explores why urban planning deviated and deviates from the indigenous multi-generational knowledge that compelled cultures to build away from the ocean. So this idea about colonialism, so the way the world was colonized by the Western people, several damages that are done to the knowledge systems are something like that they did not give any respect to the local knowledge system. Now local knowledge system means people were understanding their climate, their environment, and their entire lifestyle and everything, like even town planning, village planning, or whatever they were doing were done with context of their climate. Now you get a kind of a technology from the West, and you can say that you can build any building anywhere, and we have this Bombay city. If we see, then it is all on ocean. We have there were all empty spaces, and all those empty spaces are covered, and we have created a city on it. On that, a city is constructed on that. Dubai also is that example, and many places, because now you get a more technology, more way of working, and you work on. So somewhere like indigenous multi-generational knowledge, multi-generation, some knowledge that are coming from forefathers, and they are aware. Normally when they are staying around the ocean, when they stay around the ocean, simple thing like don't build anything near the ocean. Ocean can come anytime and claim the land. So most of the constructions were going by and large away from ocean. So even that was not regarded. And so now we find that because we have tools, we have earth movers, bulldozers, we can get lots of mitti, iron, and build huge constructions over ocean and other things. But that is all very harmful also. So this knowledge which was compelling us to stay away, now it is not regarded as such, and we are more exploring those things which we are inviting the death on us in one or the another ways also. But well, in the name of now the development, because the very idea of development is a colonial idea. The idea of development means you should have a beautiful roads, beautiful buildings, statues, electricity, all material thing. Is a very colonial developmental idea that we all move on rather than going to the multi-generational indigenous knowledge systems. Recently in Trivandrum, Kerala, Trivandrum is also on the coast of ocean, and there also that many times these waves come and they claim the land. So recently there was this Shashi Tharoor, who is a politician from Kerala. He requested to the central government to see that some work is being made, some construction of a huge wall is made so that the ocean waves cannot break the wall and eat away the land. Otherwise, the ocean is moving further. As an answer to this demand, Amitav Ghosh tells that, well, that is not the right demand. That is not the right demand. He rather said that we should have a retreat from the ocean, retreat, planned, managed retreat. He told this. He gave this word that we rather should have the plan of managed retreat. So says come back, come back. Now don't try to claim more land from the ocean. Let ocean have its own share. You come back. You take your people back and locate them into a better place. Now don't build anything there. So is that a better answer? Or like I have a tool and I can build anything, so I should build on the ocean or any of the natural aspect. That is the another concern that he tries to address here. And then the final part of this work is about politics, and he notes that activists who single out capitalism as the systematic driver for climate change miss an important element, and that is imperialism. So, well, imperialism obviously is very much a capitalism. We have seen in post-colonial studies that imperialism or a new empire, that is America as a new empire, and it moves around capitalism. Yes, it is moving. So he says that yes, imperialism and capitalism are to a greater extent one and the same thing. Capitalism is responsible for the damage that we are doing to the climate. And as an answer, we referred earlier, or those days when we were talking about post-colonial studies, we gave example of films like Sherni, that how the tiger's path has been blocked by the construction or mining work that is going in the forest. So what is this mining? Mining is done by a company. It is a kind of a capitalist project to get more from the nature so that people can get more money or a better life and other things there. That very idea is explored in a different way by this recent Netflix series, Don't Look Up. So it is the same thing. So when a comet is coming, one businessman who is dealing with artificial intelligence and mobile phones and other thing, he comes with an idea that on this comet there might be minerals. So why don't we take minerals? That is what we are doing in film Sherni. You want minerals from forest, so you are blocking the path. Now here the idea is completely beyond. Your entire earth is under threat, but you want minerals so that you can make better chips for mobile phones and computers, and things can work in a better way. So that is how so that also is capitalism, that it plays a vital role. But imperialism also, the way the spread of imperialism that operates, it also works in different capacities in looking at this thing also. So these are his concerns in Great Derangement, about stories, about history, and about the politics. And he tries to answer all those things into a narrative where he makes a story around a myth, the old myth, and tries to say that these are characters from America, from Europe, from India. So he takes three continents into the grip of one narration, three continents, and then everywhere people are having one or the other kinds of problems. But the problems are not addressed as such very real as a real problem, or people are not aware about it. Somewhere in a small groups, seminars and conferences are going on about climate change and other kinds of things. But not many people are interested in the seminars and conferences of climate change also. We also shared one things, and I hope many of you might have registered for that, at least to attend, or if possible you can read some paper also. With the help of Great Derangement and other thing, you can send an abstract and participate in the seminar on climate change. But not many people are interested still. That is what Amitav Ghosh tells as a narration. When in Los Angeles there is a seminar, and an interesting way of looking at 17th century calamities is being read by the speakers. People do not give much interest. And when characters like Lisa, we have seen this character. So these are illustrations, illustrations to support what is coming in Great Derangement. This character Lisa, and she is entomologist. She is entomologist, and she has studied bark beetles. Studied bark beetles, and bark beetles, and was telling that these trees are being eaten from inside by this beetle. So if there is a fire, it will spread like anything. And then there are fires. There are wildfires also there. So those are those things. And then we have Larry. We also have a Larry character who is studying spiders. Spiders, and says the movement of the spider. And we also come to know from Pia about the movement of the snakes towards the Northern America, where a dog is bitten by that snake also. Okay, so this is how we see this context. And then out of this, now I hope this point is clear in the mind, everybody, this point, that how we use this book to study, that is perhaps understood. Okay. Then the another thing is, another way of looking at or doing a textual study is to go to this corpus and try to see this. So let us see how many such words we can find in this novel which are pertaining to climate change. I will give a list of a few words here. I will give a list of a few words here, and you have to search those words, like how many times those words are coming and what is the context. The number is not very important for us. It may be one time only or 10 times, it doesn't matter. A recurrent pattern can be seen if you want to see those words. But what is the context, and what that word, wherever it appears, tries to tell us, or in what is the context of that word, that we can try to see there. Okay, let me write down some of the terms. And quite surprisingly, there are many words. There are, when I was listing down these words, I was quite surprised that there are so many things pertaining to climate change which is coming in this narration. And the words like, for example, we have floods, okay, floods, then cyclones, storm. Then the name of the storms and cyclones are also given, like Aila, Bola, These are some of the names, because we do give names to the cyclones also. And we have a list of the names even before they are still born. So whenever they are born, we will give the name to those. Which was the last one? Taute. Taute, that we have seen. Tokte as we used to write, but it is Taute, the one. And then Ankh was there. Nilofer was the another one. Nilofer, Ankh, many such. And now every year we have 3-4 such cyclones, either on that side of India or this side of India. It is always, and those names are there. So the two that are referred here is Aila and Bola, a storm. Calamities also is a word, calamities, or calamity, singular word, you can say drought. Okay, drought, uh, weather alert. Okay, weather alert, then wildfires, tsunami. Yes. Then apocalypse, volcano or volcanic, something like volcanic, volcano, temperatures, temperature or temperatures, yeah. Reforestation, reforestation, famine, seismic, seismic, earthquake, earthquake, plague. Let few words let me write on this board. Okay, there are still few more, and this was just a random looking into the text. This was not like a careful reading, but just a random exploring the e-text. And this all words we're able to see. And we have this. Okay, so few other words that we see here are, so the last one was plague. Okay. Smoke, air quality, tornado, global warming, greenhouse, greenhouse, hailstorm. Okay, so this are and any other words coming in your mind? Can you, if you can, any? I think Lata has read the novel, or while discussion, any other reference might have come, and you think that this word is missed out. Then that also we can refer here. Okay. Well, so we can see that at least this here we have 3 and 3, 6 words talking about this something pertaining to the corpus of climate change, and then here several other words that we see here. Okay. So now can you start looking into the e-copy and see how these words are referring? How many, but that many is not important for us. What is the context in which these words are coming? And if you can add a few more words, I will share one shared document also with you. Two things I will ask you. One is the words of the Italian language and what is the translated. So around 30 words I have translated with the help of machine translation. So that I will share, and I will ask you that whoever gets time, explore that and translated Hindi and English with the help of machine translation. So we want to see that how machine translation is helping us in reading Gun Island. One novel we want to study, and there are Italian words and how it is helping. So that another I will put this list. Apart from this, any word which is in and around climate change. The word should be somewhere connected with the basic idea of climate change. That word, if it is there, list down the word in the document, and then try to see in which context these words are coming, and then what it tries to say. So here obviously we will see that all these things are happening because of climate change. Yes, if it is floods, cyclones, storms, calamities, and they are connected with some element of climate change. Now we have to be very careful to see that it doesn't happen only because of climate change. As a part of a normal change in the nature also, this kind of things may be happening. It keeps on happening even without any human intervention, because when we think of climate change, we obviously think of human intervention in this. Right? If I say imperialism, or if I say colonialism or capitalism, it is all human beings who have done those things. So that is what I am trying to see here. So climate change can be natural also. It may happen. So that point is very important to note, that these things are happening because humans are doing something. So if humans don't do, that will not happen. So what is humans doing, and that is affecting? So one thing is that we are exploring the earth in terms of having more and more refineries, more and more mining, cutting down forest for using for our construction of something, or making cements, or coal is something that is very dangerous. Coal word is there in the novel? Is there any reference to the word coal, C-O-A-L? Is it there? Yes, so then coal also you should mention. Yeah? How many times coal is coming? How many times? Three times coal. So can you see the context? What is the context of coal? Let us take that as an example to study. Yeah? Okay, let me see. Also open that part so I can take it into this recording also, the e-text. Anybody has opened that part? Yeah, okay. Yes, so what is that paragraph you can show here?
Here is the reference there. Londoners began to use coal on a large scale for heating, and which was how our independence of fossil fuels started. Would your Jacobean...
Now see, we are getting another word, that is fossil fuels. Okay. Huh? Yes, so today climate change is working to see that we reduce the use of fossils. Fossil fuels that should be reduced. And so what is the alternative that people say? Here it was to warm. Yes, to warm. So they want to do it to fire the things for warming. The Londoners were using that, and that is what was given. So you have to now you can say that, so what should we do? Should we not warm ourselves? Should we die in the cold? No, you cannot, but you have to think of an alternative, and that is why you go for natural resources. And what are those natural resources? To get energy, what do we do? From where do we get natural energy, power? Solar, you can say, yes. Then, yes, wind energy. Yes, wind energy. From water we get the power. water, like there is Narmada Dam, so it is also generating power from that, or wind or solar. Solar is the major source of the power, and that is what campaigns, large campaigns are going on. And you might be seeing solar panels on so many rooftops now, which if you just see the image of some skyline 5-10 years back, you won't see any rooftop there. Now you will see so many. Now when people think of constructing a new home, they plan that there should be something for solar. Solar heated water, and there will be separate pipeline for that, or solar energy for electricity to run air conditioned and other kinds of things also. So instead of fossil fuel, we are trying to move to that direction. But is that enough or not? That also are the concerns that people say, and how people do those things there. Okay, so coal, that was one reference of Londoners. Then any other reference? Coal? Yes. Only one call? Somebody told 3 times?
Yes, sir. And another reference is that I just heard from the environmental lawyer, said Priya, she is putting together a qualification of a group to file a case in the Supreme Court in a New Delhi. So I think that qualification is the digging the coal from the mill.
Qualification, yes, qualification of that, okay, and there is some legal case that she wants to do, okay, then
No, another reference.
Okay, so 2 reference only then, yeah, okay. Not 3.
Yeah.
So 2 times. Another coalition, then it is not the word call that we are looking for. If somebody is talking about coalition, Jordan, then that is not the word which we are looking for. It may be call, but not our call that we are looking. So call was something that was given to India also by during colonialism and imperialism, and trains were moving because of coal. And today also India relies a lot on coal mines and other things there, and that emission, that pollution is terrible, and India is forced by the developed countries to reduce the mining of coal. But well, not possible now. Now suddenly you tell any other country to do that, it will not be possible, because now these underdeveloped countries are on the path of development. They will say that, well, you developed yourself, now you say don't do it. So now all the other countries will tell that it is now our turn to get developed, and we are going to do. So there is an interesting conflict at international level, and politics is being played around all these things. And when it becomes a tough call, when this politics becomes a tough call in looking at the things, then what becomes important is what Amitav Ghosh is writing here in this novel, which we partly referred yesterday. And in the concluding part of this book, in the concluding part, he writes, what is the way out? How can we move on from this situation where there are these conflicts between nations, and the nations also want to develop, like for example in India, we all know that it is not easy to make an argument against Narmada Dam. And whenever people tried, like Megha Patkar, Arundhati Roy, or even Amir Khan, when they tried, they were trolled, they were abused, or there were lots of problems. Because Narmada Dam stands for a development, and the larger part of the drought-ridden region in Kutch or in Saurashtra region, where there was scarcity of water and people were suffering from the scarcity, now the Narmada Canal is providing water to them. So drinking water is not a problem in Saurashtra or Kutch, and now even in irrigation it will not be a problem. So it will be beneficial. So when the courts are looking into that, they will say that the benefit is better than the damage. Benefit is better than the damage. So they gave the permission to raise the height of Narmada Dam. So that is how we are thinking, that there are more benefits, and that also is for the human beings. These are also poor people who are suffering out of water, or farmers who do not have enough water. So you have to make that choice, and it doesn't seem to be a wrong choice also. It doesn't seem to be a wrong. So now when the choices, both the choices are right, or it is very tough, for which we call dharma sankat, which choice to make is a dharma sankat. Either way there is this advantage or there is this the other disadvantage, then it becomes difficult. If it is very clear choice, right or wrong, black or white, no problem. But when both the things are right, both the choices are right, both the choices are wrong also, then there is dharma sankat, that where to go or how to think. So Amitav Ghosh will say that, well, in this dharma sankat, we have to go to dharma. We have to go to religion. We have to go to the religious organizations, because in any another way you can't convince the mass. If you want to make the entire mass, large number of people to understand this, then go to the religious organizations, convince their gurus, and once the gurus will tell the people will be ready to do that. Otherwise it will be difficult. So to come out from the dharma sankat, the best way is to go to dharma, and worldwide it operates. So he says that if a significant breakthrough is to be achieved, if the securitization and corporatization of climate change is to be prevented, if corporatization, the example is film Sherni or any other thing that we see there, corporatization of climate change is to be prevented, then, or even this don't look up also is a very interesting word to say, corporatization of climate change. Then already existing communities and mass organizations will have to be in the forefront of the struggle. And of such organizations, those with religious affiliations possess the ability to mobilize people in far greater numbers than any others. Moreover, religious worldviews are not subject to the limitations that have made climate change such a challenge for our existing institutions of governance. They transcend nation states, and they all acknowledge intergenerational long-term responsibilities. They do not partake of economistic ways of thinking and are therefore capable of imagining non-linear change. Catastrophe, in other words, in ways that are perhaps close to the forms of reason deployed by contemporary nation states. So, by and large, the world religions, they in a way don't have much problem with the idea of climate change. They all will agree. So, they will not deny that climate change is a problematic so far as their religious beliefs are concerned. So, obviously, pre-Abrahamic religion absolutely have no problem. Pre-Abrahamic religions, they are obviously around nature. They have so many sacred groves, and lots of religious practices do happen around nature, worshipping of mountains, of forests, of trees, of rivers. Lot many insects and reptiles, they all are worshipped. So they have no problem. When somebody tells that we have to do this, they will find that this is what our religion is telling us. But even Abrahamic religions like Judaism, Islam or Christianity will have not much problem if their leaders will tell. So he refers to Pope also. Pope Francis Pope, and the statement that were given is also referred here. That, well, when Pope says, then the Christians will not have much problem, because that doesn't clash with the basic ideas as such. Finally, it is impossible to see any way out of this crisis without an acceptance of limits and limitations, and this is in turn is, I think, intimately related to the idea of the sacred. However, one may wish to conceive of it. If religious groupings around the world can join hands with popular movements, if religious groupings around the world can join hands with all these movements, they may well be able to provide the momentum that is needed for the world to move forward on drastically reducing emissions without sacrificing considerable equality. That many climate activists are already proceeding, because they understand this, they are proceeding in this direction. And to me, Amitav Ghosh is writing, to me, it is yet another sign of hope. So you see that as a hope in saving the climate change, where you can move. Now that is why perhaps he also has to go to Mansa Devi. That's why he wants to tell a story about Mansa Devi, where so many people would believe in such kind of a myth or a shrine where they visit. So that again is an answer that why he would tell a story of some Devi, religious Devi or deity, to prove his point of climate change. Why this thing is doing? He believes in that point, which he writes here, and he materializes that idea as a form of a novel by telling this story also. If you remember, during post-colonial studies, we have seen that now the post-colonial studies obviously look at globalization, and after globalization, environmental studies is the core area of looking. And there we have discussed one paper. I think some of you brought that paper in one of the presentations, and then we discussed that. And that was about Sanskritization. There was a word Sanskritization, if you remember. And then that idea was telling that in India also, countries like India, where religious practices were very near to the nature, and that was supporting or safeguarding nature and other things, but then they also are threatened by Sanskritization. It means that the larger religious practices are threatening these practices of folk. The folk have their own small deities, and they are only in form of shrines or small dham. They don't have large, huge temples. It is not that there are large number of people gather, but there is a small group of people would gather, and they will protect that mountain, which we call it sacred grove, or that forest. They will not allow people to cut the trees there, or no harm to any animals around that. That is what they are protecting. And we have seen those examples in terms of Chipko movement. In Chipko movement, the Adivasi women are hugging the trees, and they are ready to die, but they don't want the trees to be cut down because they think that trees are divine. Or the people somewhere in Himachal Pradesh, they still even they still have a problem with a mythical Hanumanji because they think that he has cut down our mountain god and taken that piece down to Sri Lanka for the protection of Lakshman when he was Murchit. So there also the people are there who are, because they were mountain lovers. That means there is divine power in mountain, and that was damaged by the other deity. So you have a problem with another god because the nature, that is mountain, was a problem. And the other people, they all have these things. Now, when the larger religious practice comes, and then they, in the name of development, at a small shrine, they make a huge temple. What you are actually doing, you have to again cut down the forest, the region, and then you have to make a large road for the people to come, because now people will come in their cars. So you have to make a big road. So you want to make a super express highway. Now, in making super express highway, you will again cut down so many trees, mountains, and that is the case of Char Dham Road project. Char Dham Road project, which we discussed that also. So when you Char Dhams are good, people go, they walk. The best way to go for pilgrimages was walking, and that was very eco-friendly method, eco-friendly way. And we know people do that even today also. Today also people do walk, and they go, and that is the best way. If they do that, that is a good practice so far as fighting with climate change and other things are concerned. But what we see nowadays, that when people are going on the road by walking, there are a couple of vehicles also going there. So they already are polluting. Their rasoi will be there in a van. There will be a truck there where they will carry many things. You should carry everything on your shoulders, or your tapela, tapeli, whatever you want. That all you have to carry on your shoulder, and there should no vehicle that will be going. Then you get tired, you sit for a while. 10-20 kilometers you sit in a car and travel, then you walk for a while, take some selfies, and then again sit in the car, and then again you walk for a while. So well, that is what people do. But walking is good, walking, and so you don't require large road. Single track is fine enough in mountains. Single track is good enough. Now you make double express highways so large vehicles can move on. And when the activist object, the government will come with an argument that this is border region, Pakistan or China may attack us, so we want the ammunitions to reach there, so we want larger road. Now in the name of national security, you will allow the destruction of nature, because nation first. Nation first, then climate. Climate is secondary, nation. So in the name of the protection of national borders, Supreme Court allowed government to make larger roads for the Char Dham, which are coming near the borders of Pakistan and China also. So sometimes nationalism can also become a threat to climate change. But well, those religious practices is what Amitav Ghosh tries to look. and that we can think of in this term here. Look for these words, go through these words and try to find, and any other more words you find, then you will prepare the list that what words are pertaining, and we can get some new words. Fossil fuel also climate change, coal also climate change, and alternative also we think of in this things there. Okay, so that is how we can look at the idea of climate change in this novel.